So, I've been wanting to start a series on my channel where I talk about movies that have been hated on a lot, and try to make a lukewarm defense for them. I realize this isn't the most sensational movie to start with, but I have a feeling that my video on Radio Rebel is going to be over an hour long, and is going to take a long time to make, so I'm going to start out with something more simple. For those who are unaware, the Charlie's Angels franchise had a reboot in 2019 that was written and directed by Elizabeth Banks, starring Kirsten Stewart, Naomi Scott, Ella Balinska, Patrick Stewart, Noah Centineo, and Elizabeth Banks herself. This movie is considered to be one of the biggest flops in modern-day history, only grossing around $8 million in the box office on opening weekend on an estimated $91 million budget, and that's including marketing. So what went wrong? Why did no one even seem to know about this movie coming out until Elizabeth Banks herself posted about its failure on Twitter? Why did I see it twice in theaters? These are all questions that have complicated answers, and I intend on answering them all now. I'm usually not the one to provide a plot synopsis in my videos, since I'm usually talking about the project that's better viewed on its own, and my video as just supplemental content, but I have a feeling that no one has watched this movie at all, so I feel the need to give a brief overview of what happens so y'all are aware of what we're dealing with. So the movie opens on an extreme close-up of Kirsten Stewart, which must be contractually obligated in all of her movies, since this happens a whole bunch in Twilight as well. This is a hashtag feminist moment in the beginning where the angels Sabina and Jane capture a guy who's embezzling money.
It's called embezzlement! Embezzlement? That's fancy.
Then handing him over to Bosley. Yeah, if you're not aware, Bosley is the name of all of the coordinators of the Angels, who are all managed by Charlie, who we only ever hear through speakerphone. I'll mention it right now, I've never seen any other Charlie's Angels media before, including the 2000s movies and the original 70s TV show. I would say those are the only Charlie's Angels media, but in the 2000s there was also a TV show that is also considered one of the biggest bombs in all of TV history, so. I'd say that the legacy of this project is so well etched into pop culture history that the average person can watch this movie and get all of it, because the movie goes on with the knowledge that you already know about the series and all of its little mini elements. It's kind of a Spider-Man and Civil War moment, where it's like, yep, you guys have definitely seen this before, no need to explain anything. So then we cut to a year later. Before that, however, for some odd reason, we get a bunch of stock footage of girls doing stuff, and I don't really know how necessary that was. It just makes the movie look really cheap. I would throw that away if I were them. Yeah, for no reason whatsoever, that opening scene did not need to take place a year before the rest of the movie, especially since it all comes back into the main story, like the embezzlement dude is still important to the plot. Not really, it's kind of stupid, but we'll get there. So this could have happened a week before the events of the movie take place, and nothing would have changed, but that doesn't matter. So a year later, we cut to Elena, a scientist who has invented a new form of clean energy named Callisto, which just happens to have a glitch that can kill people almost instantly with no trace. That sounds extremely dangerous! So she's trying to fix that, but her supervisor decides to go forward with the project despite its dangerous setback because he's evil! Yeah, he's stolen Callisto and is selling it to the highest bidder, so he can retire in Costa Rica or something. They all learn this eventually after a suspenseful run-in with a hitman who's attempting to kill Elena, who contacted the town's dead agency, which is Charlie's Angels, about the situation to hopefully put the production of Callisto to an end. One of the Bosleys that Jane had grown attached to dies in a car chase, so that does raise the stakes, especially since this hitman dude is firing machine guns at them for like 5 minutes straight, and they don't get completely chewed up by it. Now Elizabeth Banks Bosley is on a mission with the Angels, and the detailed web of crime gets unfolded. There's some fun action scenes at a racehorse, and then like at a rock-breaking facility. There's a twist villain, but eventually all gets revealed. Patrick Stewart Bosley retires at the top of the film, and he feels like he's been pushed out of the company, so it's then revealed that he decided to create his own underground crime ring, and has gotten the evil assassin and the Australian embezzlement dude from the beginning to steal the MacGuffin and use it for crime stuff. But then it's revealed that Elena was the only person who actually knows how to use the machine and not the guy who stole it from her, so they kill him, and they capture her so she can teach them how to use Callisto to murder people. This all leads up to a big confrontation at the Neon Lights house party, where they kill the assassin dude as revenge for Bosley being killed, and Kirsten Stewart punches Patrick Stewart in the face. Elena gets recruited to be an angel. Also, there's a hint that Charlie's a woman, and Noah Centineo is a hot science dude. Woo! Great movie!
If I'm trying to get in touch with you, how would
Oh, darn. I'll find you.
They were smart not to end this thing on a cliffhanger, since they were hoping this movie would spawn a new franchise with its own set of trilogies, But sadly, they wouldn't even get the full throttle treatment and at least get one more movie made. This thing was cancelled so fast, and honestly, I can't blame them, but I think it just proves how sick audiences have gotten with franchises and reboots. Honestly, if this was an original movie not tied to the Charlie's Angels franchise, then I think it would have had a better reception and it wouldn't have this layer of stink surrounding it. And maybe people would have been more interested in seeing it. Although I don't think anything could have gotten people to watch this movie, since apparently the majority of people didn't even know of its existence until it was already declared a flop. Apparently the marketing budget on this thing was massive, even though people's online reactions seem to reflect the opposite. I'm just going to assume that most of the money went to the soundtrack, which was headlined by Ariana Grande, who was white hot at the time this movie was made. No one seems to mention that this movie's soundtrack has the likes of Ariana, Normani, Nicki Minaj, Kim Petras, Anita, Miley Cyrus, and Lana Del Rey. That's a decently stacked cast of characters, yet I haven't heard a single thing about this soundtrack in over 4 years now. I haven't seen a single Arianator say that this album even exists, even though there's 5 songs with her on it, and she provides backup vocals on every song in the album. I'd say that this is because the album came out in an interesting point in her career and didn't help in astroturfing the movie to success. This was the year after the huge 1-2 punch of Sweetener and Thank You Next coming out. So the single on this record, along with the single Boyfriend with Social House, was released around the same time. And I think that caused her to reach oversaturation territory in the year 2019. Don't Call Me Angel, the lead song off this record, did okay on the charts, but it didn't make the year-end list for 2019 or have any real impact on people at all. You would think a song with Ariana Grande, Miley Cyrus, and Lana Del Rey would at least attract some people out of curiosity, but I think the movie bombing caused all the Ariana stans to turn their eyes away from it and not include it in her discography for her own good. And honestly, I don't blame them. This album's not good. It doesn't help that all the songs are really bad as well. The production is just so cheap sounding, and the low budget isn't a good enough excuse. This was that awkward point in Ariana's career where her sound was kinda lo-fi and didn't sound too lush, since Thank You Next was made in about 6 months, and it came off as very fresh and not too polished, as a reflection of the lyrics and her personal state of mind at the time. So that sound worked in that album's favor, but the rushed production on this album just makes it feel like they locked Ariana Grande in a recording studio for a week with a $20 bill and just told her to try her best. Boyfriend felt the same, honestly, in my opinion. The production on that is really well done, and it was a very upbeat pop song, but it doesn't seem to be remembered by all that many people once it left the charts. Plus, the song with Normani and Nicki Minaj, Bad to You, made me laugh very hard the first time I heard it. It genuinely sounded like the song was broken, like the vocals didn't track with the entire song. And when Nicki's verse comes in, they turn the 808s up to 11, and it genuinely sounds deep-fried. After listening to it a few more times, it doesn't sound too bad. I think it's the best song on the record, besides the single. But yeah, it's definitely not good. And Don't Call Me Angel actually has the opposite problem. That song sounds like someone accidentally dropped it in the pool. The entire thing just sounds like waterlogged. And they're really reaching for lyrics too. There's so much dead air and repeating words to fill time, like they couldn't be bothered to write more lyrics and just gave up halfway through. I felt like talking about the soundtrack was important because it's truly one of the worst elements of this movie, and the rest is worth defending, in my opinion. I mean, I shouldn't be defending it, but I am anyways. I mean, basic stuff like the pacing and the action are really good. We're lucky this movie was made after that trend of extremely blurry, shaking camera action sequences had been joked to death, so you can actually see what's happening in all of these action scenes. It's not like Taken 3 levels of bad. All the actors do a good job in this film as well. Naomi Scott is one of those small-time actors that I'm always rooting for. She's actually 90% of the reason why I went to see this movie in the first place. I think I, and many else, know her from the movie Lemonade Mouth, one of the best movies ever made, and she had a very good 2019, starring in the Power Rangers reboot that was also supposed to be a franchise that got canceled, and the live-action Aladdin. I didn't see the Aladdin remake, but I already know that she was the best part of that movie and probably the only reason why I'd watch it. This movie is honestly just a good excuse to see Naomi Scott and the rest of the cast in really cool costumes and makeup. She's literally so pretty, I can't handle it. I want her to step on me. So stupid. I also really like seeing Kirsten Stewart in a role like this, since the only stuff I've really seen her in have been really depressing or leisurely languid. I loved her in Speak. Spencer is a great performance from her, and Twilight is, well, Twilight. Not a lot of upbeat roles from her really, so seeing her play this comic relief character is really great. My only real problem is the timing of the jokes. They're just so off. At first I thought it was Kirsten's performance, but the more I watched the movie, the more I realized that when it comes to the dialogue comedy, the editing is just ruining it. The editing is very fast-paced and quick on its feet to a fault. Scenes cut so quick in the movie that it doesn't give the jokes time to breathe or even land right. I think that's one of the biggest flaws of the film.
Am I really the only person here who knows who Burt Lancaster is?
I'm concussed.
It doesn't matter. It's an old movie. It's from like...
How old are you?
How old am I? What? That has nothing to do with it.
I don't have your references.
There are film buffs of all ages.
Let's go get our girl.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
Ella Balinska is the new face, and this seems to be her first role ever, but you could have convinced me she was a big-time actor, because she really sells herself as a star in this movie. It really doesn't feel like at all that Kirsten Stewart is pulling the famous person weight in this movie. The trio really does feel like a balanced cast of characters. Also, Noah Centineo is in this film. Remember Noah Centineo? I feel like his star appeal never really made it to the big screen. He seemed to only act in Netflix originals or movies that looked like a college student's final project that was filmed on an iPhone 3. So this might actually be his only film to hit theaters. Which is a real shame because he's actually really good in this movie. I wish he was in it more. I guess the only reason why I would want this movie to have a sequel is to see Noah Centineo's character get a lot more screen time. I feel like his character was just set up in this movie and was supposed to have a payoff later on, but it never happens because the movie just ends.
Oh, darn. I'll find you.
I'm actually really glad this movie didn't spawn a trilogy or anything, because in all honesty, I can enjoy a film and support it without needing a billion ones after it. Like, not everything needs to be a franchise. I really enjoyed just watching this movie, and once it was done, I didn't need to go out and find the sequel or the spin-off TV show or anything. It was just one complete story from beginning to end. I really enjoy standalone movies quite a lot. It's actually very funny how opposite of a relationship I have with this movie compared to the average person, since I couldn't go a single day without being bombarded with ads for this flick on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Apparently the marketing was declared as the main reason why this movie bombed, most likely because they spent their entire marketing budget on me specifically, who is clearly their target audience. And they did a good job in that regard because I happened to see this movie twice in theaters. The first time was on premiere weekend, by myself, because no one else wanted to see it with me, and the second time was with my grandma, since it came out around that time where there wasn't much but graphic horror movies and prestige Oscar schlock in theaters, and this was the only movie the two of us were remotely interested in seeing on 12 p.m. on a Saturday. And we both really enjoyed it. We talked about it after we left the theater and got some food to eat, and we had a nice afternoon together. I guess that's what the main point of this video is. It's okay if a film isn't perfect or appealing to 30-year-old male movie critics. Also, I just want to clarify that at the end of the day, this movie's feminist message is very dated and is my least favorite aspect. Because, you know, while the editing is shit, and while the marketing was shit, the feminist message is truly the part that, I think rubbed people the wrong way with this movie. I do think its focus on female friendship is a very nice element. I mean, it's not new or anything, but it is nice to see. It shows that women have a hard time making connections with each other because they usually face adversity, and being able to triumph over that is really nice to see. But like I said, many movies do that a lot better, and in a much more modern setting. Like, this movie's not that old, yet it feels like it's from the 90s. Which fares even worse for its existence, since we already have a Charlie's Angels movie from the 90s. I understand that the point was to make a feminist version of Charlie's Angels, because the franchise is well known as being jiggle TV, for a lack of better words. Mainly an excuse to put women in scantily clad outfits and prance around, so then all of a sudden being like, it's actually feminist and girl boss and girl power, is a bit of a contradiction that many people noticed. Again, just another reason why that element just worsens the movie its entirety. If this was just a chick flick action movie, people still wouldn't have saw it, but it wouldn't have such a bad reputation surrounding it. Most people would have forgotten about it, I would have remembered it, they would throw it on Netflix, and then you would just gain residuals, and then that would be the end of the day. But no, now we have to talk about feminism now. Thanks, Elizabeth Banks. Thanks a lot. Yeah, this movie isn't revolutionary, and it doesn't mean anything to anyone, besides me. And that's mainly because my absolute queen, Naomi Scott, is in it. If she wasn't in this movie, this video would not have been made. So, what I want the main message of this video to be is that while this movie isn't something I'm truly passionate about, what I am truly passionate about is movies that are 6 out of 10s. I feel like the Oscars and general like film Twitter discussion just puts this emphasis around if a movie isn't like the most prestigious, high quality thing in the entire world, then it's bad and awful and not worth your time. It's just such extremism. Like it's either a 0 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. And I just feel like that's reductionary. That's not necessary at all. Did I just say reductionary? I think I meant to say reactionary, but somehow reductionary came out. I should delete the whole channel. This is I'm embarrassing myself. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and subscribe, like, I don't care, do whatever you want. I'm making a video on The Sweet Life on Deck that'll hopefully be out next. It's been taking a long time to make, so I've been trying to make smaller videos in between just to keep the channel up and alive. So if you enjoy me talking about stuff that no one cares about, feel free to subscribe. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
I'll find you.
What?